Very good afternoon, dear children. This is L.K. Tripathi from LPM Public School, Gola Bazar, Gorakhpur. Today we shall discuss about loan activities of banks. It means how the banks provide loans for the customers. What are the activities performed by the banks? This topic will enable us to know much more about the bank activities. So better for you to watch this video properly and try to understand about. Let us take the story of banks further. What do the banks do with the deposits which they accept from the public? First, we have to try to understand the money which is deposited by the people in the bank. What does bank do? There is an interesting mechanism at work here. Banks keep only a small proportion of their deposits as cash with themselves. For example, banks in India these days hold about 15% of their deposits as cash. This is kept as provision to pay the depositors who might come to withdraw money from the bank on any given day. Since on any particular day, only some of its many depositors come to withdraw cash, the bank is able to manage with this cash. Banks use the major portion of the deposits to extend loans. There is a huge demand for loans for various economic activities. We shall read more about this in the following sections. Banks make use of the deposits to meet the loan requirements of the people. In this way, banks mediate between those who have surplus funds and those who are in need of these funds. Banks charge a higher interest rate on loans than what they offer on deposits. The difference between what is charged from borrowers and what is paid to depositors is their main source of income. Means bank provide loans to the consumer and charge the high interest rate against that. Depositors also get benefit from the banks to deposit their money in the form of interest. But the interest provided by the bank is at low level as compared to the loan, which means the loan which bank provides to the consumer, the interest rate is charged at high rate. Now next, understanding economic development. The topic is in rural areas, the main demand for credit is for crop production. Crop production involves considerable cost of seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, water, electricity, repair of equipment, etc. There is a minimum stage of 3 to 4 months between the time when the farmers buy these inputs and when they sell the crop. Farmers usually take crop loans at the beginning of the season and repay the loan after harvest. Repayment of the loan is crucially dependent on the income from farming. In Swapna's case, the failure of the crop made loan repayment impossible. She had to sell part of the land to repay the loan. Credit, instead of helping Swapna improve her earnings, left her worse off. This is an example of what is commonly called debt trap. Credit in this case pushes the borrowers into a situation from which recovery is very painful. In one situation, credit helps to increase earnings and therefore the person is better off than before. In another situation, because of the crop failure, credit pushes the person into a debt trap. To repay her loan, she has to sell a portion of her land. She is clearly much worse off than before, whether credit would be useful or not. Therefore, depends on the risks in the situation and whether there is some support in case of loss. Repayment of the principal. The additional lender may demand collateral against loans. Collateral is an asset that the borrower owns and uses this as a guarantee to a lender until the loan is repaid. If the borrower fails to repay the loan, the lender has the right to sell the asset or collateral to obtain payment. Property such as land titles, deposits with banks, livestock are some common examples of collateral used for borrowing. A formal sector credit in India. What is that? We have seen in the above examples that people often loan from various sources. The various types of loan can be conventionally conveniently grouped as formal sector loans and informal sector loans. Among the farmer and loans from banks and cooperatives, the informal lenders include money lenders, traders, employers, relatives, and friends, etc. In graph 1, you can see the various sources of credit to rural households in India. Is more credit coming from the formal sector or the formal sector? The Reserve Bank of India supervises the functioning of formal sources of loan. For instance, we have seen that the banks maintain a minimum cash balance out of the deposits they receive. The RBI monitors the banks in actually maintaining cash balance. Similarly, the RBI sees that the banks give loan not just to profit making businesses and traders but also to small cultivators, small scale industries, to small borrowers, etc. Periodically, banks have to submit information to the RBI on how much they are lending, to whom, at what interest rate, etc. There is no organization which supervises the credit activities of lenders in the informal sector. They can lend at whatever interest rate they choose. There is no one to stop them from using unfair means to get their money back. Compared to the formal lenders, most of the informal lenders charge a much higher interest on loans. Thus, the cost to the borrower of informal loans is much higher. Higher cost of borrowing means a larger part of the earning of the borrowers is used to repay the loan. Hence, borrowers have less income left for themselves. In certain cases, the high interest rate for borrowing can mean that the amount to be repaid is greater than the income of the borrower. This could lead to increasing debt and debt trap. Also, people who might wish to start an enterprise by borrowing may not do so because of the high cost of borrowing. For these reasons, banks and cooperative societies need to be lend more. This would lead to higher incomes, and many people could then borrow cheaply for a variety of needs. They could grow crops, do business, set up small scale industries, etc. They could set up new industries or trade in goods. Cheap and affordable credit is crucial for the country's development. Formal and informal credit. Who gets what? Graph 2 shows the importance of formal and informal sources of credit for people in urban areas. The people are divided into four groups from poor to rich, as shown in the figure. You can see that 85% of the loans taken by poor households in the urban areas are from informal sources. Compare this with the rich urban households. What do you find? Only 10% of their loans are from informal sources. A similar pattern is also found in rural areas. The rich households are availing cheap credit from formal lenders, whereas the poor households have to pay a large amount for borrowing. What does all this suggest? First, the formal sector still meets only about half of the total credit needs of the rural people. The remaining credit needs are met from informal sources. Most loans from informal lenders carry a very high interest rate and do little to increase the income of the borrowers. Thus, it is necessary that banks and cooperatives increase their lending, particularly in the rural areas, so that the dependence on informal sources or of credit reduces. Secondly, while formal sector loans need to expand, it is also necessary that everyone receives these loans. At present, it is the richer households who receive formal credit, whereas the poor have to depend on the informal sources. It is important that the formal credit is distributed more equally so that the poor can benefit from the cheaper loan. Self help groups for the poor. In the previous section, we have seen that poor households are still dependent on informal sources of credit. Why is it so? Banks are not present everywhere in rural India. Even when they are present, getting a loan from a bank is much more difficult than taking a loan from informal sources. As we saw for Megha, bank loans require proper documents and collateral. Absence of collateral is one of the major reasons which prevents the poor from getting bank loans. Informal lenders such as money lenders, on the other hand, known the borrowers personally and hence are often willing to give a loan without collateral. The borrowers can, if necessary, approach the money lenders even without repaying their earlier loans. However, the money lenders charge very high rates of interest, keep no records, of the transaction and harass the poor borrowers. In recent years, people have tried out some newer ways of providing loans to the poor. The idea is to organize rural poor, in particular women, into small self help groups and poor pool their savings. A typical SHG has 15 to 20 members, usually belonging to one neighborhood, who meet and save regularly. Saving per member varies from rupees 25 to 100 or more, depending on the ability of the people to save. Members can take small loans from the group itself to meet their needs. The group charges interest on these loans, but this is still less than what the money lenders charges. After a year or two, if the group is regular in savings, it becomes eligible for availing loans from the bank. Loan is sanctioned in the name of the group and is meant to create self-employment opportunities for the members. For instance, small loans are provided to the members for releasing mortgage land, for meeting working capital needs, for housing materials, for acquiring assets like sewing machines, handlooms, cattle, etc. Most of the important decisions regarding the savings and loan activities are taken by the group members. The group decides as regards the loans to be granted, the, the proposed amount, interest to be charged, repayment schedule, etc. Also, it is the group which is responsible for the repayment of the loan. Any case of non-repayment of loan by any one member is followed up seriously by other members in the group. Because of this feature, banks are willing to lend to the poor women when organized in SHGs, even though they have no collateral as such. In this way, we have discussed much more about this topic. Next, we shall discuss in the next video. Till then, thank you.